Hi everyone. The goal for our individual outline here is that we are strategically combining our information into an outline. Again, I've said it in class a bunch of times, but my longest papers would be a complete mess if I did not have some sort of outline of where I wanted to go, even if it was at minimum like the main points that I was talking about. Some notes here: you do not have to have the outline complete to submit it. You can submit what you have so far. If you notice that you don't have a lot of research for a specific point and you have time, you can go in and do more research. Otherwise, that's something that you would go in and you would add before you would write next week. But you have, in order to get feedback on your outline and for me to let you know, here's what I think I would do differently, or here's what I think you're doing well, you have to submit something. Again, goal: combining all of your information strategically into your outline, making that writing easier. The elements of the proficient outline: you have a thesis in either a statement or a question. Some of the samples are as statements, some of them are questions. Both of them are correct. You have specific evidence and your sources. You don't have to specifically state what piece of evidence, but the more information, like with the detailed example that I'm going to show you in a little bit, the easier it will be to write. A mastery for evidence and sources: you'd be consistently including specific evidence, whether it's paraphrased or directly quoted, and you'd have the citation as well, showing where you got it from, because you're going to need it anyway. And then the last part is sources. You are using sources both in your introduction and throughout the paper to show your findings. The mastery for sources is you're not just saying which source you're going to use, you're going that deeper step and you're talking about either where that source is from or the credibility, so you don't have to look it up later. You will need it at some point, but if you don't have it for the outline, that's totally fine. My suggested process for you: look over your annotated bibliography. If you click the hyperlink, it shows me walking through my annotated bibliography. Look through your sources, look through your notes. What are the big common areas? What are the things that you could talk about? Whether you had them when you were researching and that's what you have them already for, or you were just kind of researching your topic and you weren't quite sure where it was going to go. What do you have in common now? The big sections: how could you kind of organize it? I'll talk about that when I walk through a different sample here. Once you've gone through and kind of reflect on that, start actually sorting the information. Most of the samples had at least 2 pieces of evidence, so that's probably a good rule of thumb just to start off with. You probably want to have at least 2 sources in your body paragraphs. Again, like I said with the earlier, you might have all of the research. You might need to go and do some more, whether it's this week or next week, and that's perfectly fine. Optional, there is an outline format sample that I'll look through in just a minute that shows you how you could lay out your information. It explicitly states what should be included in your introduction. It also has some modifications. It's essentially like everything that you do informatively, argumentatively, persuasively. Most writing has some form of magic 11 paragraph when you're doing it for academics. I do not call it a magic 11 paragraph because you don't necessarily need to always follow that pattern. If that makes you more comfortable to think of it in that way, go ahead and do so. I won't be referring to it or requiring that magic 11 format, because some of the samples don't follow it. Okay, some things to keep in mind: some of those samples have paragraphs that just share the info and they don't really explain the evidence a lot. Some of the samples have paragraphs that they kind of mix in the commentary, either like whether it's explanation or analysis, either between sources or presenting multiple sources. All of those samples do have commentary somewhere in them, so be aware of that. At minimum, in my outlines, I kind of include like some keywords. What was I going to talk about for the commentary, or what is the big important reason why I have that piece of evidence in there? and then you compose your working outline and sort it. And then I do have some, because I zoomed in, maybe? Some sources, they're also attached here. The outline samples are the same as I have on the reverse outline, and we will take a look at those in just a second. I'm just going to go through the whole thing at once.